You know, when we think about resurrection, there's this specific image that probably pops into your head, right? But what if I told you that whole popular idea isn't what the Quran describes at all? We're going to dive into this because the answer we find in the text, it might just shatter everything you thought you knew.
So the big question is, how does resurrection really work, according to the Quran? I mean, it's a huge fundamental question. And the answer? Well, it's built on a logic that is honestly both surprisingly simple and really profound.
Okay, you know the image. We've all seen it a million times in movies, right? Skeletons clawing their way out of the ground, bodies being, painstakingly put back together from dust. It's super dramatic, totally cinematic, but is it actually what the source material says?
And this is where things take a sharp turn. Because the Quran's answer is just fundamentally different. It basically dismantles that entire physical, almost mechanical picture and replaces it with something else entirely.
All right, that brings us to our first major point here, the grave misconception. And the core idea is pretty shocking, actually. It's that graves are basically irrelevant to how resurrection works.
Now this quote you're seeing, this is the single most repeated argument for resurrection in the entire Quran. It's everywhere. And the focus, it's not on forensics or finding old body parts, it's all about divine capability. The logic is so simple, it's beautiful. If God created you once from absolutely nothing, well, of course he can do it again.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Your first creation, did that need a grave? Did it need preserved atoms? Was there some kind of blueprint lying around? No, of course not. So the Quran's logic is, why would the second creation be any different? Resurrection works on the exact same principle. It's a pure act of creation, not reconstruction.
Okay, so if resurrection isn't about putting our old atoms back together, then how are we still us? What holds on to our identity? And that brings us to the next really cool idea. It's all about God's perfect memory. You see, the Quran makes this huge philosophical shift away from thinking we're just our physical bodies. And when you think about it, it makes total sense, right? The atoms in your body are constantly being replaced, even right now as you're listening to this. And after we die, they scatter everywhere. An atom that was part of you could end up in a tree or an animal or anything. So if you aren't your atoms, then what are you?
So instead of this flawed idea that you are your atoms, the Quran presents a different idea. You are your nafs. Your nafs is, well, it's like your essential self, your consciousness, your soul. And that self is what God knows perfectly, completely separate from whatever physical bits and pieces it's attached to at any given time.
Wow, this is such a powerful verse. You've got skeptics asking, you really think God can assemble our bones? And the answer that comes back isn't just a simple yes, it's yes, of course, we are able to perfectly recreate even your fingertips. Your fingertips. Think about that.
And that's the absolute key right there. The whole point of mentioning fingertips isn't about God going on some scavenger hunt for your old fingerprints. No, it's a metaphor for the insane precision of the recreation. It's about God's perfect knowledge of you, your unique identity, down to the tiniest, most specific detail.
Okay, so we've talked about what it isn't. It's not a construction project. So what is the actual mechanism? Well, the Quran describes it as something much simpler and much more powerful. A single command.
Yeah, so you can just forget any image you have of some cosmic assembly line. That's not it. In the Quran, resurrection is framed as an event. It's instantaneous, a single decisive moment. Blink and you'll miss it.
And this is the phrase the Quran uses again and again for any act of creation. Kun fayakun. Be, and it is. That's it. It signifies an act that is completely immediate, totally effortless, just pure divine will. There's no process, there's no time lag, just a command and boom, it's done.
And check out this verse. It'll be just one single cry, one summons, and suddenly, bam, they will all be present before us. The language here is all about speed and immediacy. It just completely jumps over any idea of a slow, gradual rebuilding process from graves.
What's really fascinating is that the Quran actually gets ahead of the skeptics. It anticipates one of the most common questions you could possibly ask. Yeah, but what about the bones that have literally turned to dust? Well, let's see how it's addressed.
And there it is, the classic challenge. You can almost picture it, right? Someone comes forward holding a crumbly old bone and asks the ultimate gotcha question. Who's going to give life to bones when they're nothing but dust?
And the answer comes back instantly. It's so confident. It just says, say, the one who created them the first time. See, it circles right back to the exact same logic we started with. The whole objection is just, poof, dismissed, because the question itself is based on a wrong idea.
So let's put it this way. The incorrect way to think about it is like recycling. Resurrection isn't about recycling your old parts. No, the correct analogy is that it's about reinstating a person. It's not about digging up lost material. It's about bringing a known identity, that nafs we talked about, back into being. And that is a huge, crucial distinction.
So, let's break it down. What gets reconstituted? What's the important stuff? Well, your form, your unique identity, your memories, your awareness, and a full record of your deeds. That's the package. And what's totally irrelevant? Your grave, your geography, your old environment. None of that matters.
Okay, so we've spent all this time tearing down the old, common image and building up this new one based on the text. But so what? Why does this distinction even matter? What's the real takeaway here?
And this really brings it all together. The common idea, the reason people have a hard time with this, is they imagine it's like a police procedural, a forensic reconstruction, a really, really hard physical task. But the Quranic idea is totally different. It's a sovereign remanifestation, an effortless divine act. For God, it's just as easy as creating you the first time was.
And you see how that completely reframes the whole debate? In this view, denying resurrection isn't about having a failure of imagination. It's not that you can't picture how it would work. No, it's presented as a failure of knowledge, a failure to grasp the power of the Creator. The entire argument rests on divine power, not on, material logistics.
And that leaves us with one final big question. A question that brings this whole thing right back to us, sitting here right now. If our true self, the thing that makes you, you, isn't actually tied to the atoms making up your body, if our real identity is something else entirely, something known and preserved completely beyond the physical realm, then what does that say about who and what we really are in this very moment? Something to think about.